On this episode of Sauce and Hench, we honor the late great Kobe Bryant. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Sauce and Hench. We have a very special episode today honoring Kobe Bean Bryant, who passed away a year ago today. I'm Sauce, and that is Hench. Hench, it's a tragic day. Probably the first worst day of 2020, which is saying a lot.
Yeah.
So the first question I want to ask you is, where were you when this happened?
So I was on my way back from Sox Fest celebrating my birthday, my 21st birthday. We were on our way back. We were in the car. My mom, my dad, my sister were all in the car. And my phone just starts to blow up. And at first I thought it was a scam and started to look for as many legit sources as I could. And the more legit sources I found, the more I realized a legend and idol in our lives just passed away. And I was just sick to my stomach, felt like I was going to throw up, could not believe that happened. It just one of those moments where you can't believe it. And I mean, it was definitely one of the just such a gloomy, sad day. I couldn't get a smile or anything on my face the rest of the day. It was just so sad that happened, how tragic it was. I will always remember where I was and how I felt at that moment. It was just one of those moments you'll remember for the rest of your life, sadly. What about you?
We could probably go into great details about where we were because you go such as to a state of shock that your mind just remembers every single detail. I had came home from Jan term because it was the sister's birthday just 2 days before, and was playing college football with my 6-year-old cousin. And when I mean, I had the remote and he had one that wasn't on. So, but then my sister texted our group chat saying that he had passed, and I said, "There's no way. Maybe she just fell for those old scandals." Like I think Bon Jovi's died like 3 times because of those fake online things. But the more you looked, like you said, on just looking up his name on Twitter or looking on Instagram, it confirmed that Kobe Bryant had passed in one of the worst ways ever. And as you said before, you just imagine Kobe being that Bill Russell type figure. He's just old and he's white all over, and he's still talking trash to the other players. Like, I still beat you right now at 70.
Yeah.
And it was also really cool to be seeing him sitting courtside and watching all these professional basketball players still all over him.
Yeah. Absolutely. All the guys he'd train that would go to him for advice and train with him in the off season. He was that role model to a lot of guys. And one of the things before we move on was we talked about how both of us kind of thought it was a scam at the beginning. And I don't know if you've ever seen the video of Shaquille O'Neal or what happened when he found out. And he said that some of his, I want to say his nephews maybe were at his house. They were downstairs in his basement and came up to Shaq and were showing them their phones of all this Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant passed, and he was the same way as us. Thought it was a scam and legit was like, get that BS out of my face, was like legit mad at his nephew because he obviously thought it was fake. And why would you put that fake news in my face? And then the more he realized that was real, and obviously saw how much that affected him, I couldn't imagine. I mean, we're just fans that have never even met the man in our lives, and we feel that way. I couldn't imagine his family, his friends, teammates. I couldn't imagine that. So
yeah, I know that his son, who just got over heart surgery, Sharif O'Neal, he was messaging Kobe that day, and he was one of the last people Kobe ever talked to. And I know that Kobe and Sharif kind of grew together, got a better relationship through the years because of Kobe and Shaq mending their relationship after they had that falling out in L.A. They had just done that NBA TV spot where they sat down and talked out their beef after Kobe had retired, and I think that's what put them together. And now they're on the right track. And I think that Shaq saw himself growing old with Kobe talking basketball, and now he doesn't even get to do that.
Yeah.
Which I think just shows to show you that you should appreciate every day with who you have as with your loved ones, either that be family or friends.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
So that's a part of me that's saying, you know what, it's probably a good thing that Kobe and Shaq got that out of the way. So at least Shaq doesn't have regrets anymore about
absolutely
that relationship.
Yeah, 100%.
So I know that you and I are from Chicago and we're huge Jordan fans.
Yeah.
But he retired before we actually got to watch the man. And even when he did play, he was an old man in the Wizards, and we were still too young to understand what was going on. So I think it's fair to say that Kobe Bryant was our version of MJ.
Absolutely.
So the question I have to ask you is, what's your first Kobe moment?
First memory of Kobe?
Yeah.
Man, there's so many of them. But, I mean, like you said, Chicago fans, and I guess my first memories of him is just every time he played the Bulls, he torched us just because he's so good. And my dad would obviously show me all the Jordan highlights and everything, and you just see how likewise those players were. And just, I mean, there's videos all over. If you just look up if you just go on YouTube and look up how the same those players were, videos that pop up how down to the footing of a move that they make are the exact same. So to see how good he was offensively gave us an insight of how good Jordan was, to where these moves people just couldn't defend, just so lethal on moves, that just the way he'd feel the defense on his back by advice from Jordan. You feel him on your back a certain way, that means you should pivot, move a certain way to get this open shot, and to feel the defense on your back, like just to see that sort of player. So I don't think it's a specific Kobe moment. It's just realizing that, hey, this is the closest thing to Jordan that I'll ever see in my life. I wasn't fortunate enough to see Jordan like my parents were, so this is the closest thing to Jordan that I can see. And I still think we've talked about LeBron on this podcast a lot. Like we said, I like LeBron as definitely as a person, a philanthropist, everything like that. But to me, I just think Kobe, he just has that. It's just like your shirt, the Mamba mentality. He has that mentality that is the closest to Jordan that I think has been in the NBA since Jordan has went out. That mentality that I'm going to legit do whatever it takes to win. And that's why I loved Kobe so much, is because he had that attitude to where he did not care at all of what relationships he breaks, who doesn't like him, who doesn't think he's a bad teammate. He just wants to win no matter at all costs. And hats off to that, because that's the type of mentality that I try to have even in every day in life. And he's a great role model to watch. And I don't think there's a player in the NBA now, or that has been in the NBA since Kobe and before Jordan, before Kobe came in, like, that had that mentality. So that's one of the things that I guess really stick it to me, is just how much of the Mamba mentality. That's what I think of when I think of Kobe, is just that same attitude to where that Jordan had. They smell blood in the water and better get out of the way, and because they're about to torch you every night. So
yeah.
What about you? You got a specific moment?
I think the first moment I remember for Kobe was when he won his 5th and final championship, because that's around the same time I started getting into basketball. Was that summer when he won it against the Celtics, and because he just lost to them 2 years before, and they finally got his revenge. So I remember From the first moments was when he climbed up on the scorer's table and had the ball in the one hand, and he was sitting back and like celebrating the championship, taking it all in. But you're right, he was just a straight up killer. Like, I became a basketball in 2011. So Kobe had just come off his 5th championship, and that's all I remember from Kobe was the injuries and him keep coming back. Even though he had nothing else to prove, he kept coming back. Because after that, he had the Achilles injury. He hurt his elbow, and then he finally retired in 2016. And I remember that Utah game, his final game, where he scored 62 points.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to bring up was that game and how amazing that was.
You either had the choice of watching Kobe, its last game, or Golden State try to break the Bulls record. So as a Bulls fan, you're thinking, do I watch my modern day MJ, or do I watch the Bulls record be smashed because they're playing Memphis? I'm going to go with Kobe.
Yeah.
You just couldn't
remember. You remember all the celebrities in the stands that –
yes.
When you see celebrities in the stands like that, some of them who don't even know lick about basketball are there just because they know they have the money to be at such a special moment like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those moments that you have to be there for. Kobe Bryant's last game, you have to be there for that because he's a legend.
Yeah, he's the best player that come out of the Lakers, which is saying a lot considering the success of that franchise.
Yeah. And I mean, we talked about Kobe as a player so much, and we will throughout the rest of this podcast too. But I mean, you think of how amazing he was as a person. You think of all the things that he meant. I mean, okay, first off, you just talk about the city of LA, and you saw when he passed away all the people that came to the stadium and brought flowers and all those sorts of things. Okay, he impacted that city obviously because some players can be great, but don't impact a city because of the personality they have. But obviously his personality thrived and everybody loved him. Then you move on to the country as a whole. You saw how much it impacted everybody when he passed away because everybody loved not only Kobe the player, but Kobe the person. And then you move outside of the country and the impact he had on the whole world. He traveled everywhere to do so many things. The dude knew so many different languages too, to where it wasn't like he needed a translator when he went to these countries to talk to these people. He was legit talking in their language and I mean, making an impact on people's lives in other countries. The man was he got taken so soon because he was going to make such an impact on this world. He already did. I couldn't imagine the things that he was going to be able to do now that he was retired, and he would have made even more of an impact on people's lives around the whole entire world. And that's something I wanted to hit on as well, just how it wasn't Kobe the person that me and Sauce fell in love with. I mean, not Kobe the player that we just fell in love with. It was Kobe the person that we fell in love with as well, because it's really easy to get behind a player when they're playing well, but it makes it super easy to get behind a player when they play well and they're a great person.
Yep. Kobe the player was always fun to hate because he was so competitive and you just wanted your team to win. And when you and I both know that those Bulls teams were great, we've talked about them thousands of times. And I always wanted the Bulls to beat them because I'm like, it's the Lakers. It's the best team in the NBA. You say that Kobe learned foreign languages, and I think one of my favorite stories is when he learned how to speak French to talk smack to Tony Parker when they Spurs. He wanted to make sure that he got into your head and beat you that way too. But Kobe the person, I can't ever argue that he is one of the best people to ever walk this earth because
absolutely.
You and I did a podcast and we talked about Sarah Fuller and her impact in women in sports. Kobe was the advocate for women's basketball.
Oh, big.
Because his daughter, this is Gigi was Kobe. She was going to be Kobe because he was on Jimmy Kimmel or Fallon. It was one of those talk shows. And
I think it was Fallon. because I know what you're talking about.
And Kobe's like, oh, he said that he'll be out, and people are like, you and Vanessa need to have a son so they can carry on the legacy.
Yeah.
Stand in there, and she's like, hey, I got this. And you saw her like playing basketball in their house, and she wanted to beat her dad.
Yeah.
The third leading scorer in NBA history at that time, and she wanted to beat him on one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get a Kobe hoodie for Christmas, and when I went on Safari and typed in Kobe Bryant hoodie, you know what I got in return?
What was that?
Orange hoodie with a white WNBA logo on it.
Wow.
That's what it said on. That's what it popped up as, because he wore that to a game once. So then a lot of people started wearing it as Kobe's jersey, because Kobe was going to be the advocate that the WNBA's always needed to promote them.
Yeah,
and give them that
would have been huge.
Because I feel like they still get disrespected as professional.
Oh yeah,
they shouldn't. And Kobe was going to be that next line of defense to say, hey, this is a respectable league. These are professional players. They are the best in the world. You should watch them more in the summer, and not downplay that they're women playing basketball. And that's that's what I think was going to be missed most, was the fact that he didn't get the chance to get the WNBA where it belongs, and that's somewhere up there in top viewers and ratings in the country during the summer.
Yeah.
Along with baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. He has the voice to make an impact as well. Like, if Kobe says it's good, then you know it's for real.
Yeah. And you also said about his Mamba Academy, where he trained players that would come out there and train with him during the summer. And when I hear about these players, you watch them, you can't help but watch them. Like Jason Tatum last night played the Bulls.
Yeah.
They spin fade away. And I go,
yeah,
just like Kobe.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, a player that like resembles Kobe, or you can tell works with him, is just when they can score in multiple different facets. Like, whether it be just taking what the defense gives you. I don't know if you remember, him and Peyton did a thing for a while called Spotlight on ESPN.
Yes.
And it was one of my favorite things to watch, just because you get a real look into the mindset of Hall of Famers and legends. And especially listening to Kobe, he sees the defense and just knows exactly what the player should do and what the defense is giving them, what move is, if you master and get this move down pat, you're going to score no matter what, if the defense gives you this look. Like, if you want an insight, if you don't really know much about Kobe Bryant, go back, try to find those spotlights and watch them, because you will realize that this man knew everything and anything about basketball. Because it brings me to a loss of words listening to him when he talks about that stuff, to just think what goes through his mind when he sees a defense, which you see it in the players that he trained. You mentioned Jason Tatum, and he talked to Devin Booker too, and names like that, to where dudes are hopefully, I mean, I don't think there'll ever be another Kobe Bryant, but at least we get to see moves like we did last night with Jason Tatum, to where it brings a smile to your face, to think, hey, that's Kobe right there.
Yeah. Some of the players that I made a list of players he worked with: Trae Young, Kawhi, Tatum, Paul George, and Kyrie. There's more. There's just the ones that I saw immediately.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying with the Spotlight, because for Christmas I got the Mamba Mentality book that he wrote. And if you ever want a good read, I can bring that to you, because it dives into how he prepared for games. And he would discuss about certain players and how to guard them, and he would do if they were facing regarding him. And he talked about how he would watch film like nonstop. He's like, I would watch film more than anyone, because I want to be prepared to go in there and beat you. I want to win badly. It's a good book. I loved it.
That's awesome.
But when I hear about these players I want to learn from Kobe, it reminds me of a young Kobe because you and I both watched The Last Dance because there wasn't much else going on. And they had one episode where he was in it at the All-Star game.
Yeah.
That was his first All-Star game, I believe. And I remember MJ's in the locker room talking to the Eastern All-Stars, and he goes, that young Laker, he's gonna want to come out here and kill us. He's gonna try and force shots up. And back then, that's what he was. He was a young Laker. But to you and me, I'm like, he's talking about Kobe. And you just saw how Kobe was so competitive to finally get that opportunity to prove himself against MJ. And MJ even said, like, Kobe would annoy me with questions. But he goes, but I was willing to tell him anything he wanted to know. And I think that's what those players turned out to be with him. Because, like, Kobe saw himself in them. They were willing to put in the work, and they were willing to learn from him and ask him questions.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of my favorite parts of the MJ doc is even if you just go on YouTube and look up when Kobe MJ or whatever, I love when MJ goes in depth in the middle of a freaking game saying, if you feel a certain way on your back hip, then make a move this way. I mean, come on, man. That just gives you chills and just it's awesome to watch. Just to see two legends, just what goes through their minds. I would love to just be a fly on the wall in a conversation between those two to hear how they go in depth and what they see during a basketball game to make them legit. Nobody can stop them. It's just amazing.
They're such detailed guys about the game. So I think I have to ask you now, if you had a preference of, like, if someone were to ask you, like, who is Kobe Bryant? Say we're 30 years down the road and your son comes up to you and says, hey, who's Kobe? What moment would you pick out and show him? So it'd be like, this is Kobe. This is who.
Yeah. So I go to a play where Jeremy Lin, I see it all the time. It's one of my favorite Kobe moments. Jeremy Lin's covering a guy at the top of the key, and Kobe's in the corner, three-point corner, guarding somebody. And it's late in the game, and the Lakers need to foul. And Kobe is screaming at Jeremy Lin from the corner, foul, foul, foul. You see it, and Jeremy Lin's not fouling. And Kobe checks his guy to make sure and sprints all the way from the corner to the top of the key to foul him. That just simplifies. It's not even a play where he scores or makes a defensive stop. It just shows him, okay, I will do anything at all costs as myself to win a basketball game. I'll leave my guy and I will do whatever it takes. And that's a perfect moment for me. It's just a tiny detail in a basketball game of fouling somebody, but he sprints all the way from the corner to the top of the freaking key to foul somebody. That exemplifies Kobe for me. And I mean, also you could really dive into practices and stuff like that, to where in the Jordan doc, they did that with Jordan. I had people that said to me after a while, well, Jordan was a jerk teammate for all this. Dude, I want a teammate like that. So that's what I would try and show my kids too, as well as what he did in the locker room. Because if you want to win, even in life, even if my kids don't go on to become professional basketball players, I don't want them to think that that's the only time they can use that. The Mamba mentality, like it says on your sweatshirt, is something that I'm sure he talks about in the book, is something you need to have in life as well. Yep. And doing legit whatever it takes to win, to put yourself in a position to win. And that's what Kobe exemplified. And that's definitely one of just a short 20-second film that I'll show my kids for sure if they ever ask me who Kobe is, which, knowing my kids, and they'll walk into the basement and see all the sports stuff that'll be in my basement, they'll know who Kobe is, so they won't really need that.
I'm glad that won't be an issue.
Oh,
when
yeah.
time comes.
What about you?
I think that the best Kobe moment was maybe his worst is when he was playing that Golden State game and he tore his Achilles, and he
Free
knew
throw.
he knew that he was done because the way he was walking.
Yeah.
But he got fouled. He goes, well, "I'm gonna go make my free throws," and he goes and takes 2 free throws, and he makes them both.
Yeah.
I think that shows him this is how tough you need to be if you want to succeed in life, not just in sports.
Oh, yeah.
Life in general is
Absolutely.
just take something that went wrong and instead of crying about it and being upset, get tougher and keep going out there.
Yeah.
That's what Kobe could have retired and been like, no, I'm done. I've done everything I need to do. I'll be a Hall of Famer. He comes back.
Yeah.
And this is when before Achilles injuries was like, okay, it's another Achilles injury, no big deal. But he went and got the surgery the next day and came back with no questions asked. And I 110% agree is those people that saw that the way MJ was to his teammates are the type of people that can't take criticism very well.
Yeah. No. Constructive criticism, they don't know how to take it.
Exactly. And you can't argue 11 championships between those two.
No.
You
No.
can't.
No.
But those two understood that if I toughen you up now and make you a callous, then when these games happen where there's a tough situation, I know I can rely on you because I've seen how tough you can be.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about the Jordan doc over and over, but just because Kobe and Jordan are the exact same player, you look at the Steve Kerr shot, you really think that MJ would pass it to, I'm not characteristic anybody, but a short little white guy? If he didn't trust him, MJ's taking that shot. But then you go in depth they really go in depth of how Kerr stood up to Jordan. Jordan punched him in the freaking face.
Jordan did punch Steve Kerr.
And most people would be, well, I'm backing down to him. That's the best player in NBA history. Kerr gets back up and gets right in his face. That earns the trust, and that's what Kobe wanted. Same thing he wanted from his teammates. I'm blanking on the name. I'm pretty sure there was a likewise situation where Kobe did the exact same thing to somebody in a practice. I forget who it was, but I'm almost positive he punched.
I know there was the one time that there was a 5-on-5, and him and Nick Young were getting into it.
Yeah.
Waggy P. And I know there was this other foreign guy they had, and he was cursing them out and bumping them. And some people see that and they go, why is he cursing at him? He's his teammate. Because he's making him a better player, even if he doesn't see it. Like, this guy should be getting fired up that Kobe wants to challenge him, that you should want to do better against Kobe now. Because not only is he one of the best players of all time, he's also cursing you out and challenging you, basically. Like, you've worked your whole life to get to this moment, and now this guy is basically berating you in practice in front of your peers. You should be, like, wanting to dunk on him at that point, trying to destroy him in that scrimmage to prove yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not – and Kobe and MJ both good. I'm not here to hold your hand. I'm here to make you a better player and make sure that we win championships. Because at the end of the day, no one cares about the MVPs or the scoring titles or how many points you scored. They care about how many championships you won and what type of legacy you left on that team.
Yeah, absolutely. I found the guy's name, too, that got punched in the face by Kobe. His name, I'm still trying to figure out why, but okay. So his name was, excuse me if I don't pronounce this correct. Well, his last name was Walker. I just lost his first name. Hang on one second. Samaki Walker. He's on the, he was a former teammate of Bryant on the championship winning 2002 team. And he got punched in the face because he owed Kobe $100 because he lost in a half-court contest, and Kobe punched him in the face because he didn't give him the $100 for a while.
Kobe's like, I earned that money. Come on,
Oh,
man.
man. So, yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, he didn't hold back either, man. And that's just something you want out of a leader, and only certain people can handle. And it helped Kobe win 5 championships because he got his teammates to the point to where they could handle adversity. And obviously, if you can handle adversity from Kobe, then you can handle it in a super close game in the NBA Finals. So
exactly, and that's what worked.
That's all Kobe wanted.
Those last 2 years when they beat Orlando and then Boston, is we can look it back on paper and go, how the heck did this team even make the finals? It's because Kobe made them so tough and so good that it didn't matter who was on the floor with them. They were going to win.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah.
It worked. It worked for those championships. And I think that if the Lakers got more talent for them at the end, and if didn't try to make a 38-year-old Steve Nash his teammate, and Dwight Howard and him didn't mix good either, that maybe they could have contended one more time. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But those teams at the end for him were just awful.
Oh yeah, that was a team when it was. Yeah.
I don't know if
they put together. Everybody was super excited about
Nash, Kobe, and Howard try to combat those Miami Heat teams. But have you ever watched the Kobe Bryant Muse? It's a movie about him.
What was it, Muse?
Muse.
I think I have. I'm pretty sure.
He did it after his Achilles injury, before he retired.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on HBO. They talk about his Achilles injury, and then it goes over his career, but not just his career, but his life from his young days in Philly to going to Italy and not knowing anyone. And he said he was the only African American kid there. So he said that's where the Mamba mentality even started, was because he'd be sitting there alone because he didn't speak the language. He didn't know anyone. And he said he would take it out on basketball. And I think my favorite thing ever is this is like the oldest thing I've ever heard, is that his uncle, I believe, or his grandparents would send him videos of NBA games on VCR. They taped the games and send it to him, and he'd sit there and watch, Magic, Bird, Jordan. But they asked him, well, who's your favorite player growing up? And he said, John Battle. I'm like, who is John Battle? And then Kobe said, well, what he would do is he'd get the ball on a rebound, go take the ball left-handed down the court and then score with the left hand. And Kobe said that's what he wanted to learn, is how to do that. And I'm like, just leave it to Kobe to pick the most random player that I've never heard of. And I just remember that name. So I'm like,
That's awesome.
He played for the Hawks back in the day. That's all I know about him. And he hit a buzzer beater one game, a big buzzer beater.
That's a great story. That's great content right there, Sauce. I never even knew that. That's awesome.
Yeah, he talks a lot about his days in Italy, and then in high school, and then going to the NBA. A lot of people also don't remember that when Kobe was his rookie year, I believe it was, they were in the playoffs against Utah. No, that was 97, 98 season. No, it would have been the year before, his rookie year, 96, 97. He airballed 5 straight shots. And then he said that he drove to UCLA when they landed and thought about how he may have screwed up not going to college. But then he went to this local high school, and the janitor let him in, and he said he just took shot after shot. He said he was there all night till the morning, just taking jumpers because he was so mad that he airballed.
Wow.
And then, coincidentally,
that's awesome.
The first game of the next season was against Utah Jazz, and I think he torched them for 30, 40 points, something like that. That was the beginning of Froby.
Awesome.
Love Froby.
That's awesome, man. and he's got that different tick in his brain that only a certain amount of people have, and he was definitely one of them. And they're hard to come by. To where, I mean, you could probably count on one hand the amount of players in the NBA who would do that right now. To where if they airballed in the game, that they go to a gym and stay up all night taking however many shots. I mean, there's very few that I could think of that would do that sort of thing. And if they do it, it's probably because they were under Kobe's wing and know that it takes a lot to be great. You can be good in the NBA, but it takes a lot to be great.
Well, I think his lasting legacy from that is that you should work hard for what you want. And when we say that, it reminds me of another Kobe White, that plays for the Bulls. And he'd been struggling, and he was taking jumpers after a game.
Yeah.
Like, only a Kobe would do that.
Yeah.
Only a Kobe would do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess that now that we've gone through this year and we've experienced the things that not too many, I guess no one from ever that ever walked this earth has ever experienced, that terrible 2020 year that was really a year of growth for not just people, but for our country. So I don't want to put you in a tough spot, but what do you think Kobe would have said during the 2020 year if you got to live through it? If he was there with us during the pandemic and during the BLM protests and during the election?
Yeah, absolutely. It actually comes to one of my favorite quotes, and that's with no challenge, there's no change. So if I think he would have said something along those lines, to where you have to go through challenge for us to go through change. People may not see it now. I'm talking this is what I think Kobe would say, and this is the mindset that I try to have, but Kobe's just so good at having that mindset. And he would say something along the lines of no challenge, no change. And you may not see it right now, but we're going to come out of this and things will change for the better for this country. Everybody has different views and stuff, but maybe we come out of this and we're actually a country that's united as one again. We've been a country that's been so split on views for so long. Well, maybe that somewhere down the line, where after we go through all these trials and tribulations together, we come together as one, which is definitely something that I know Kobe would want. And that's the sort of thing I would guarantee that, or along the lines that I didn't know him personally, but as a fan and what you see in interviews and in videos, and you read his book and stuff along those lines, is that's probably something along the lines that I would guess he would say.
Yeah, I found a Kobe quote that made me think of what happened this year. And he said, everything negative, pressure, challenges is all an opportunity for me to rise. So for me, that makes me think, even though that we had to stay home and couldn't go out, see friends or maybe certain family members, and we couldn't go work out because all the gyms were closed, basically was saying, like, you have to go out and you have to be creative, and you have to understand that it's not going to be handed to you now, that you can't just sit at home in your bed playing video games or sitting on the couch watching TV and think, oh man, this sucks. I wish I could go out and do this stuff. But basically just saying, this is an opportunity. Don't think that something negative is going to weigh you down and hurt you, that you should just go out and do the best that you can with what hand you've been dealt. And I think, I know you're the same way, but when during COVID, I put a net out in the backyard and just hit into it all day. And I think that's part of a Mamba mentality. And I think if a lot of people live with that Mamba mentality, I think not only as you as a person is going to grow, but everyone around you is going to grow, because they're also going to understand, like, this is how you work, and this is what you have to do. Is you have to be so focused on that one goal instead of allowing these other factors in your life affect that. If you want a certain job, if you want a certain grade, if you want a certain relationship with someone, you got to put in the work. You can't just expect it to be handed to you. And that's what always made me think was you got to wake up every day with a mean mug and get ready to put in the work, that you're going to have some early mornings and late nights, that's just how it goes. And as a high school student, I didn't understand that, but as a college student, I'm like, oh yeah, those early mornings, late nights are definitely a must if you want to succeed.
Absolutely.
Not only just in college, but if you and I want to get the jobs that we want, we got to put the work.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, and I think that's the difference between people who get to eventually get their dream jobs and stuff along those lines is if it doesn't come easy to some people, they just settle. And I think that's like I said earlier, this is definitely something I'm not just going to, definitely someone I want my kids to know about, not just because of his play, obviously, but just because of that mentality, because I don't want my kids to settle. I don't want to settle. And that's something that challenged, you saw the brightness out of a lot of people throughout this pandemic was, we are in a pandemic. I could be at home and not bettering myself at all, and putting myself in that situation where after this is over, I'm in the perfect position to do what I want. A lot of people just didn't do that. And I think Kobe is a perfect example of that to people, of how you just need to have that mentality every day you wake up, no matter what the situation is. And that's definitely something I try to take with me in my life, and will pass along to everybody in my life, whether that be coworkers that need some advice, or my kids or grandkids or whatever it is. Kobe, the person, just knew how to attack life every single day.
Yeah, not just the basketball, but the way that he approached the basketball game is how he approached life. And when that happened, we all kind of took a shot. I think that's what makes us think more about it. Even a year later, is it made us think even legends can die, that they don't bleed gold, that they bleed that the same color that we do, and that took a shot at our mortality. Like, that's the worst part, is knowing that even if it happens to Kobe, it happens to everyone. That he wasn't gonna live forever, even though you wanted him to. I think I kind of feel bad, because you kind of take Kobe for granted, because you always expected him to be there, and now that he's not, you kind of you have to try and take his legacy with you wherever you go, and make sure the next generation knows about him, that they don't forget him. A song associated with Kobe is I don't know if you've ever heard it, "Glorious" by Macklemore. One of the lyrics is, sometimes you die twice. Once when they bury you in the grave, the second time is the last time someone's mentioned your name. And I don't want him to have to die twice. You want his legacy to carry on, and I don't have to worry about it. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that who he was and what he stood for stays there. Because not just Kobe that I want them to remember for, it's what he represented. There's a weight to his name, It's not just Kobe being Bryant. There's something to it. There's thousands of other meanings that we could go into this, but I don't think we'd have the time. It'd be like a 3-hour podcast.
Oh yeah.
It would look like Avengers Endgame at the end. I think the last question I have to ask is,
absolutely,
people do say Kobe Bryant, what does it mean to you? I know you've covered it, but when someone says to you Kobe Bryant, and they wanted like an immediate reaction, like you don't even think about it, like what does your heart tell you when someone says his name?
Yeah, so one of my most prideful values for myself is competitiveness. And when I think, obviously, the word mama mentality, but I just think of the word competitiveness when I think of Kobe Bryant. Is competitiveness is a characteristic that easily, if you interview 100 people, say I have characteristic of competitiveness. But really, out of those 100 people, how many of those 100 people really have that competitiveness trait to where it may be something as simple as a board game? I know it is for me, to where I'm playing with my family and I am legit mad if I lose a board game. And I know Kobe has that same trait to where he, whatever it is, if there's a winner, he wants to be that winner. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if you're playing if you're playing a little kid, like a little kid in a board game, I still want to win. And that's just a trait, competitiveness, that I don't think everybody has for sure, or really some people may be competitive in certain situations, but Kobe exemplifies competitiveness, and he, no matter what it was in a 24-hour day, he had it. It didn't need to be a game or a practice or in a certain situation for him to be competitive. It was every single moment he was competitive in his life, no matter what it was. And that's a thing to me. To when I think of Kobe Bryant, I will just say competitiveness. And some people will be like, oh, well, yeah, he's in the NBA, he has to be competitive. No, I'm not just talking about in the NBA. I'm talking about in life, in every aspect of it. The man was competitive. And that's a trait that hits home for me, because that's easily one of my core values, and I know that was for Kobe too. So if somebody ever asked me to say him in one word, or say something about Kobe in one word, it'd definitely be competitiveness. So if I were to ask you, Sauce, flip the question on you and said, okay, after this whole entire podcast, you can say a sentence, a word, or whatever it is that exemplifies Kobe to you, what is it?
Oh man. I want to say well-rounded. And what I mean by that, because that's hyphenated, so that is one word. Kobe had this thought. He goes, if I sacrifice certain things, I could be there, not just for my family, not even when he was playing professional basketball. He would say that he'd get up in the morning really early, go get a workout in, come back when they were waking up, getting ready for school, and be there like to make him breakfast and show him out the door to the bus, and then spend time with his wife, and then go work out again. And he understood that there were sacrifices needed to be made if he wanted to be a great friend, mentor, husband, father. And I think at the bottom of his list was being a great basketball player. I think he wanted to be everything and anything that he could be. He wanted to be great at everything he did. And that's his competitiveness. I 110% agree, because I agree. I'm also the same way. I get irritated because playing a game with a 7-year-old, and it was a tank game. I'd shoot and I couldn't see where it would go. And I was so irritated and I felt so bad. They gave me an iPad and I was like, I'm done. I can't play if it's not fair. But I think knowing that if you sacrifice certain things in your life, that you could be everything you wanted to be. And if you want to be great at everything, you have to be willing to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
That's what made me think of Kobe, because I'm like, that's genius. I never even thought about like waking up early and being able to spend time with the family, and then getting the stuff I needed to get done that day. Because Kobe, 24 hours wasn't enough, apparently, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
He needed a solid 30 hours a day to get stuff done for how busy he was.
Yeah.
He wanted to be.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I could just end it real quick on a quote that I think has been up on the back of my door since the first shoulder surgery I had back in high school. Like back of my door, my room is just filled with quotes from athletes to philosophers to anything, just quotes that really hit home to me. And one of them I pulled up so I didn't butcher it at all, because I mean, it's Kobe's words. I don't want to butcher his words, but it is the moment you give up is the moment you let someone else win.
Yeah.
And
saw that one.
That's, I mean, that's life, man. I mean, the moment I think of myself in my career, the moment I stop grinding away every day is the moment somebody else takes that role that I want. And it's the Mamba mentality, man. It's it's his catchphrase. It's everywhere, and I think people just hear Mamba mentality sometime and just, oh, it's just a quote or whatever. But
it's those
two words mean something. So
yeah, I think that is the perfect way to end this very, very special episode of honoring the late great Kobe Bryant, someone that we'll always look up to, and this whole generation will look up to even decades after he's been gone.
Absolutely.
So make sure you like and subscribe the page. Go follow us on Twitter under Sauce and Hench, or Joe Mile 2, I believe it is. Always have content up. Always do. I think that's also a Mamba mentality, is getting this content to the best of our ability and at a high
absolutely
rate. And make sure you watch our other videos and enjoy them. Hench, any other thoughts before we close it out?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad we did a podcast like this to, not only talk about Kobe, but honor him in a day. I can't believe it's been a year already, but to honor him on today. I hope everybody gets out of this podcast what we put into it for podcasts like this, and enjoy it. Honor Kobe today, in whatever way you can. And thanks for listening again. And like Sauce said, follow us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube to hit that notification bell every time we got a new one come out. So, thanks for listening, and, rest in peace, Kobe.
Rest in peace to Kobe Bean Bryant, and we'll see you next time here on Sauce and Hench.